good evening, and welcome into the most electrifying edition ever of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, Robert Hagan with the wonderful internet over there. How's it going? Mr. Muted.
Internet and AC. I guess it's been a little bit of mix of both over the last couple of days. So finally getting the house down to about 80 degrees now.
down to 80 degrees. That's the life we live right now. It has been so hot. It says 98 degrees out there right now, which is cool for us.
I mean, and it's been an interesting week for us, even starting the day after last week's show. As many of you, some of you listen, we know we've got buddies that listen from all over the place, but the day after our show was over, we had our lightning storm, and the next thing you know, we've got fires all over in our region. It is just a hazy mess, and it has been a tough week on a lot of people around here in our area.
There's fires all over the Northwest, which is usually like an August, September thing. We're just, I would like to say getting it out of the way early, but I'm sure it will not stop in August and September. It's just rough. I would love to see a lot of rain. The one thing that I guess we are lucky enough with here in the LC Valley is we're not getting fire nados like they are in California.
Fire nados.
Look up Fire NATO when the show's over. It is a sight to see. It is insane what is happening all over the place. Again, everything's going on here. I call this the most electrifying episode ever because my house tried to we tried to use too much electricity to cool down the house, and instead nearly burnt down the house. But luckily, the outlet that we blew out is just like the New York Yankees and refuses to catch fire. So we got really, really lucky. We have the electricians that they fixed the outlet that messed up, and now we'll come back Friday to check everything else and see if there's anything else we need changed. We live in an old house that has gone through some renovations. A lot of those renovations made by people that should not have made the renovations, and some outlets that were put in by people that were not called electricians.
Yeah.
So they saw some interesting stuff. So we will see how that all goes. But house is still standing. This giant shelf right over here is leaning on this other shelf because it busted as we were moving it to try to get to an outlet to see if that was the bad outlet. So that seems to be the only casualty that once we move, we just have to throw that thing away because it's not going to stand by itself anymore. But yeah, it's been a fun week.
And and with everything, the fires, we also talk about there's a lot of people having issues with Vista and internet issues and electricity issues. So, I mean, for us to get blessed and have, the few things going on, I've lost internet throughout the day. AC went out yesterday afternoon. Lucky enough, and I just got lucky enough when we were able to chat with the landlord, and they had called the AC place, and within 30 minutes she had an appointment for today to come. And so we only had to deal one night with minimal sleep, which oh my Lord, it was toss and turn. So it will be an interesting looking forward to a good night's sleep tonight. So
I wish you luck. But first, let's get into the show. And we're going to start the way we've been doing it the last few shows with our top stories. And I'm very interested in Robert's. So, Robert, you get to go first.
Well, for me, you told me last week I was trying to find the feel good stories and all that, but
I didn't say that was a bad thing, but you had to go turn it around on us.
I did. So today, I decided to go a little bit different. So I went to the whole article going on with Stephen A. Smith and what's going on with him, basically talking about his rant and how Shohei Otani, if you're going to be the face, and now I can't bring the article up now, and that I was reading, it's being issued. But in other words,
Mm-hmm.
if you are going to be the face of the MLB in the United States where you are at, you need to have English, be able to speak the language. And I'm like, coming from a person, and Randy knows this. I am one of those people. I'm not a big fan of Stephen A. Smith. Never
Mm-hmm.
have been, and for me,
It,
and
and
I'm gonna get called out.
it's not even Stephen A. Smith. It is people like Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless that feel like if I am louder, then my point gets across better. And I
Right.
hate those kind of people.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And his comment was, "Yes, I agree, Jason. That is 100%. It is a joke, but he comes out and says, that they need to um, be able to speak the language." And so within just an hour after him making his comments, and that was
Mm-hmm.
on First Take, and within an hour, he was already on. I want to say on his Twitter account is where the video comes up of him apologizing
Mm-hmm.
that it wasn't in the context that we was talking about. He was
I
trying to make
hate
it
that argument.
as, and that's the thing. He was trying to make it as, I'm trying to become the person to build your product up. It is all about, we're looking to build your product up. No, it's not. You're one of the biggest people that ever go against what, if there's anything that happens to a black person, anything that happens to somebody of a different color skin, he will take and will jump on board.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the black thing with him. And as soon as something happens to a different race, people, or person, then he gets defensive about it. And they within like I said, an hour or two, the
Mm-hmm.
Asian American community was bashing, was
Oh yeah.
getting on him. And this morning, he says, this morning, on First Take, they talked about him. He was apologizing. It wasn't Disney making him do it. It wasn't ESPN. It wasn't the producers at the show or his bosses. It was him making the apology. For a bit, yeah, that it seems that it was kind of genuine to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I love what a couple. I think his name was Jew, the ESPN beat writer, came on First Take and just, I thought it was great. I mean, great entertainment for him to make a point that Stephen A. Smith, you don't know everything about this, and it just goes back to him being a very racist person, and he doesn't think he is, but I think he is.
It's really hard to say that Stephen A. Smith is racist just for the fact that exactly what Jason says here, nothing he says is genuine. And it's
Right.
basic that, again, Stephen A. Smiths of the world, Skip Baylesses of the world, Shannon Sharp now, who's the guy that's on there? Kellerman, Max Kellerman now.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole job is to create controversy and to create sound bits. They know most people are not going to watch their 2-hour show. For one, it's on too early for a lot of people, or they've already went off to work. So they need to create these sound bits that then will create traction on Twitter and YouTube and everything there. Stephen A. Smith is looking to create sound bits that he can now then use on his radio show in New York. That is his job. And I believe he was trying to be controversial without being racist with his comments. I had not seen any of this other than the backlash yesterday. I watched this just before the show. I watched the two things. I don't think he was trying to be racist with it, but he was trying to be controversial of, oh, this baseball has a publicity issue and they don't have the face of the game. And now with the face of the game not being able to speak English, that's an issue for them. No, the issue is Major League Baseball doesn't know how to create the face of baseball. Mike Trout should have been one of the biggest stars in America. period. And they don't do anything with him. Like, it should not be Mike Trout's job to get baseball over. It should be baseball using Mike Trout to get baseball over. Just plain and simple. Now, I mean, obviously, Mike Trout's job, other than to play baseball really, really well, is to get himself over as far as his own sponsorships and his own deals, like LeBron James has done for basketball. But you have to take your stars and build them up to then get them out. And what Stephen A is trying to say is we're not going to see Otani on TikTok or any of this, because his whole point is trying to get that younger demographic, which, yes, I 100% agree that baseball has an issue when it comes to the younger demographic. It statistically has been proven that the age of the viewership gets older every year because it's the same people watching baseball every year. And as much as we are trying not to, we get older, and that's how it works. But I do think his apology was genuine the next day, and because he did it so quickly, because he gets off the show, you see the backlash, and I do believe that at least that was not his point. And then once the backlash came, he went, you know what? I'm 100% wrong. And he still hits the buzzwords on his apologies and then makes fun of himself for saying the buzzwords. And I hate those buzzwords because it makes you sound not genuine. But it's so absurd. And it's really, as you said a couple of minutes ago, coming from Stephen A. Smith, who tackles these racist topics all the time. And how many times has he went, that dude needs to go for saying that one thing? And now all of a sudden he's like, listen, I'm doing the exact same thing I'm blaming these guys for. But, I didn't mean it.
Right. So
it's yes.
Yeah. So here, the part in his apology that really gets me is, and I'm going to quote it. I'm looking right now at his Twitter, his apology, and it says, "As an African American, keenly aware of the damage stereotyping has done to many in this country, it should have elevated my sensitivities even more." Dude, just say, I messed up. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, your sensitivities. Based on my words, I failed to regard that, and it's on me alone. Otani is one of the brightest stars in all of sports. He's making a difference as it pertains to inclusiveness and leadership. I should be embraced. Yeah, it says, I should have embraced that in my comments. Instead, I screwed up in this day and age with violence being perpetuated against the Asian community. My comments, but unintentional, were clearly insensitive and regrettable.
And just to go off the path of just bashing Stephen A. Smith, I completely disagree with his take anyways, even if it wasn't a racist take. What MLB needs to do is take Otani and do with Otani what the NBA did with Yao Ming. Yao Ming made basketball huge in China and in all of those countries over in the East. And that's what they need to do. Is baseball is huge in Japan. And I mean, you see highlights from Otani in his Japanese baseball league that has as many fans, if not more fans, than what MLB has right now. So they need to be able to combine. The whole thing is you have the World Series. So treat Otani as one of those world star athletes that you're bringing in to validify your World Series. We have the best athletes in the world is what MLB should be doing with Otani. And Otani has the greatest smile in all of sports. If you watch the home run derby, he and Juan Soto just were having the best time in their battle in the home run derby, just smiling, having a great time. Yes. Do they speak the same language? No, they don't. But were they able to have fun? Absolutely. And that's what MLB needs to do, is take this Stephen A. Smith crap and turn it around and go, listen, baseball is a global language. That should be their whole thing. MLB is global. That's it. And you move on, and then you just shove it in Stephen A. Stephen A. Smith's face, and that's how you start building the brand, and that's what baseball needs to do. Baseball's been terrible at building a brand. I mean, yes, it worked a little bit last year with "Let the Boys Play," the King Griffey Jr. commercial that we saw with Tatis and the bat flips and stuff. And they need to push more like we saw in spring training, and I'm sure we're seeing in the All-Star game right now. I can't listen to it, but having players mic'd up during it and showing that personality,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I've spoke of multiple times on this show. But no, it is not because Otani doesn't know how to speak English. Who's the biggest star in Seattle over the last 25 years? His name's Ichiro. He could barely speak English, but they were able to promote him in Seattle, and they made some hilarious commercials with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So it has nothing to do with the language that Otani speaks. It's MLB's inability to push stars and get the narrative out there.
So that being said, I think if you were to look and to change, I don't think Otani's going anywhere. Yeah, what is he?
No,
24 now. Yeah, no. How do you rebrand him? How do you take him? How do you take Fernando Tatis Jr. Yeah, or even find? And I think the other guy that's probably the biggest guy, and just watching the game, probably Freddie Freeman. How do you take those three athletes who love to play the game, and you can see how much they love to play the game, and how does MLB promote these guys?
you got to
Because
push the
that
you got to push the personalities.
so that just tells me you've got to do something. You've got to make a change. Make a change. Hire a spot. Who is in that area in MLB in a major spot that is the guy with that? I mean, who do you create a new position within an MLB and say you're going to be player? You couldn't call it player development, but you know. But make it, you know what I'm saying, make it a profitable, and make it a sport that people are wanting to follow more. It was the whole thing when you said it, when Ichiro came out, and came over. It was the biggest thing in Seattle, even above what the Seahawks were doing. And even that was just right about the same time as the Supersonics were moving to
Oh, don't piss people off
I
even
I
more.
know, but I mean, that was the biggest story in Seattle at that time. I mean, with everything going on, and so they've got to be able to market these players a little bit better to build
So
the product.
I'll take from my fandom. I wouldn't say experience, but my fandom, and give you two ideas where the MLB can go. Either get somebody that used to work for the WWE, because obviously they were able to push characters
Hmm.
and are able to promote a brand, or get a couple YouTube guys. Because obviously you get some of these young players like Tatis, Otani, Harper, Trout. Is Harper even considered young anymore? He's been around for
Nah,
so long. But some of these younger players, and get them on these different YouTube channels.
right.
I mean, we see MLB player or NFL players and NBA players on Dude Perfect all the time. I don't know if I have seen a baseball player on Dude Perfect. You need to get them, and okay, we're at this new state or this new stadium. Go ahead and meet up with these guys and promote these names all over the place. The problem is, one of the problems is baseball is so regional. So all of those Ichiro commercials we only saw in the Pacific Northwest because you're
Hmm.
promoting Seattle Mariners games. And that is what all baseball is wherever you go in this country, you're going to get a very generalized, centralized, version of advertisements as they're trying to just promote their team. They need to do that, but then MLB needs to promote the brand. And you need all of those teams to work together to promote the brand.
Right.
All right, so let me move on to mine, as that one. It's a very interesting story, and again, actually, before I go on to mine, do you think Stephen A. Smith should face any repercussion?
Well, I think he probably will. I think I
He won't.
the
Absolutely not. He is the biggest star on ESPN. No way he faces
I,
anything.
I would think Disney and ESPN will say something about it, but it might just be one of those, another one where they sweep under the sea. I mean, it's the same thing with the Rachel Nichols thing. I mean, she made a comment about one of the other African American ladies that had got a position on the NBA Finals, and they kind of, that story has kind of taken a little bit of a quiet turn, a little bit,
That's how
and
all news
so
stories go. Is it's
yeah, and so
controversial for a day, something else comes out that's controversial, and then you forget about that. But that's
and
go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, I was gonna, mom, dad listening, but most of these players do have a working
Mhm.
visa that they do, but they put in the time, and I think that's the thing. They have those people. Ichiro was one of those people that also, he got to the point where he was learning the language, learning things, and you know, we got to remember this kid's what, 23, 24 years
Mhm.
old, and the only thing he's known his entire life is over in Japan has been baseball. So it's baseball is just that worldly,
Yes.
the the that sport that keeps us all together. As much as we want to say, soccer and football, soccer that way, but it is what it is. Baseball is just that thing that brings a lot of people together.
And I just was saying that Stephen A. Smith just goes out there to say things controversial. I may say something controversial here that things people might be upset, especially your parents. But I'm under the belief that yes, English is the primary language in the United States. It is not a requirement. I hate that argument that you have to speak English if you want to come to the United States. It's so pointless. It's
Yeah,
I'm
we
not
have
even.
we
That's it's gonna be a 3 hour podcast. I want to get into that discussion or hear that discussion from Jason Teasley if he's still here. I already gave Eric Watkins a idea for Black Irish last week on the show. Jason, I want to hear you debate anything we've just talked about in the first 20 minutes on Black Irish. You can check that out. W2M Network. I give him a plug because he's been a good friend, and I was on the kickoff with him for a year. So I want to do that. Also, I want to give a plug to another friend of the show. He was on the NFL draft with us, as long Jason was as well,
yep.
and that's where this topic comes in. And that is Derek from the Time Spent Poorly Network for their sports network. I listened to their show on Saturday, and they talked about this year's NBA USA basketball team um, as one of the best created. And what do? They go out and lose their first 2 exhibition games. Now, exhibition games mean nothing. You're just trying to work the kinks out. They do beat Argentina 108-80 today in another exhibition game. So they're now 1-2 in these. But I got a couple questions I want to ask. The first
Okay.
one is, does the USA even care about the basketball gold medal like they used to?
I don't think it's anywhere close to what it used to be. When the Dream Team came out, and that, I think right now, they're, from what I'm seeing with the U.S. team, it's all political. There's a lot of politics going on in USA Olympics and with the committee and all that. But it doesn't seem like it's not going to be the team that you and I remember with Malone and Jordan and those guys from what it is, and they're not pushed as hard. I mean, I don't even think they're coached as hard. So they just show up. I think it for me, and I've said it, and I'll say it again. And I'm all about the basketball as you are a high school player or college player. But once you get into the NBA, it's like all of a sudden you guys turn on and you become like a prima donna. And I'm not about that. And I think that's what a lot of those guys have become. And so the want to play for your country and the want to do good for your country, your community, is now being pushed away by those that want to make it and want to do it for the money or for their own platform. That's what I
I
struggle with.
I do think that as far as basketball goes, the Olympics fall at a really tough time for them. Like some of the best players just finished a very, very long season. Their championship, well, the championship's still going on right now, but usually by now it's done. But because of the way COVID happened and the 2020 season got pushed so far, then this one started a little later, so it hasn't finished just yet. But even then, I mean, you're asking them to play over 100 games, and then on their off season when they want to rest, hey, go play this. It's not like hockey for the NHL where it's going on during the season and they basically take a 2-week break from the regular season to allow the Olympics to happen and you just continue moving on. It kind of works like soccer does where it's all these different leagues are going on and a player will bounce around and play for different teams. Here, if you're a great player and you got knocked out in the first round, it's okay, now a month and a half, and now you want me to play again, and then in a month and a half the season starts. This year's even worse because again, COVID made the 2020 season last forever, and you had such a small off season at that point before this, where they play 72, 71 games this year. So I'm not surprised the power is not there. I still believe the USA is probably the favorite to win the gold medal, but it's also the fact that because the USA came out once they were allowed to use pro players in '92, and we'll get into that team. The USA dominated so much that it pushed the other countries, and now other countries have really good basketball teams. And while the USA maybe not were to that point where it's like, whatever, we don't really care. These other countries care far more because they want to top the U.S. in this sport that everyone felt was all about the U.S. So it's an interesting combination. And that's where I'm going to ask you this one. Are you worried that we're going to fall short this year?
I don't think so. I think we'll make it into the medaling rounds, but like you just said, it's all about getting pushed and what the Americans did years ago just made a lot of these places a heck of a lot better. I mean, they start producing, the places are bigger. You look at, and I hate to bring this up, but you look at a friend of the show, and I've had many conversations with him, as Trayvon. Trayvon and I have talked many times, but look what Poland's done. I mean, Poland's got their own league now and they travel around just in that area alone. And for him to sign a contract to go over there, and you look at his facility that he gets to work out in. I mean, you have to admit it. I mean, the United States pushed a lot of these countries to get better, and I think they're making those commitments to do better and produce some of these big name players to come in. So I would be a little hesitant, but I think they're going to make. I think they'll make the medaling round, but I don't know if they will make the gold medal game.
Well, if they don't, it'll be the first time since 1980, which is the only time the U.S. did not make the medaling round. The stats for the gold medals as far as basketball go is just gross. On the men's side, there have been 30 basketball tournaments in the Olympics. How many gold medals do you think the United States have won?
Wow. I would say 6.
They've only won 6 gold medals in 30 tournaments. Try 23. 23 gold medals for the United States.
I guess I'm looking at
medals altogether.
I guess I'm looking at it as you and I talked about this, our era. So that's all I was thinking is I can't remember some of the players that even played in the 70s and so on. So I was thinking moderns, but it would make sense because we talked about it a couple weeks ago. That was one of the fun facts ones that I do, that the Olympics started in 1911. I'll have to go back and look. So
it looks like the first basketball tournament was 1936, which was won by the United States over Canada with a final score of 19-8.
But it makes you wonder how many.
Now.
So, and that being said, you got to think about it. How many different sports now have grown and been added in or taken out or re-added back into the Olympics, and how many of these countries don't send anybody to participate in that event? I mean, that's tough.
So we talked about the Dream Team, which to me is the greatest basketball team ever put together. 12 players played on the Dream Team. Can you tell me how many of them are Hall of Famers right now?
I would say I'm going to go just over half. I'm going to say 8.
How about 11?
All 11.
All
Wow,
but
11.
all but Christian Leitner, who was the one collegiate addition. Which, by the way, one of the other players that I learned was in consideration for that collegiate spot was Shaq. So we could have had all 12. But I'm talking about, you look at the centers for the Dream Team. If you're not old enough to remember this team, how about David Robinson and Patrick Ewing? Just
I love the Admiral.
How about your guards of Larry Bird, Scottie Pippen, Karl Malone, Chris Mullins, and Charles Barkley?
And you laugh about Charles Barkley, but I tell you what,
Christian Leitner, but
you laugh about Charles Barkley, but well deserving career. So,
and then your guards of Michael Jordan, Clyde Drexler, John Stockton, and Magic Johnson. Just what a gross team. And then they're playing against opponents that had not really built their basketball yet. So the closest margin of victory was 38. The semifinal round against Puerto Rico, they only won 119-81.
Yeah, that's just
insane. So anybody that's saying any other team is the greatest basketball team of ever needs to go look at the 92 Dream Team. But my question to you, and I did a little bit of research, and it's very interesting how it works out. Who is the second best Olympic team that the U.S. have put together?
It's got to be probably the last Olympics, so I would say probably 2016.
Gotta close my thing. Hold on. Why would you think that one?
Probably because of LeBron. And also was Kobe was on that team too, was he not?
Last time,
2016, 2000, maybe it's 2012. Would have been Kobe and LeBron. I would say I'm going to change that. I'm going to say 2012.
Which one was 2012? Mine's 2008, and that's the Redeem Team, which is funny because the two best teams, in my opinion, came the year after we didn't win the gold medal. That's when the United States cares about Olympic basketball, is the year or the 4 years after we don't win one.
Yeah, because I was looking, if you look at that roster, 2012 roster, yeah, you had Durant, Westbrook, James, Bryant was on there, Kevin Love, James Harden, Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, and Carmelo Anthony. So,
the 2008, pretty close. But you get LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard when he was good, Chris Paul, Chris Bosh, Dwayne Wade, Jason Kidd when he was good, Carlos Boozer. Yeah, it's pretty good. Carmelo Anthony when he was good. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Funny thing is, Coach K was on both coaching staffs. He was an assistant for the Dream Team, and then he was the head coach in 2008. So there you go. Those are our top stories. Let's get into some baseball. The All-Star game going on right now. The American League currently up 2-0 in the top of the 5th inning. I'll get into my feelings on the All-Star game later. We have a Believe It or Not scheduled for the top of the hour, but we're already running long, so we'll get to it when we get to it. You put on a interesting stat. There's 42 first-time All-Stars this year, which does show they're not getting younger in viewership, but they have some amazing young talent that they need to push. There are 8 players that are 24 years or younger that are on these All-Star teams. It's
Fernando Tatis. You talked about that. Fernando Tatis, Ohtani, Bo Bichette. I mean, you've got some guys on there that are. It's going to make things interesting to watch for a long time. And I'm a huge Freddie Freeman fan. I like and he's now considered an old man,
He
which
is.
is crazy. And to watch this ball club, these teams playing. So yeah, 42. That number, I think that is probably the highest number of first time. Um, all-star people, but give it to Vlad Guerrero. He hits the first home run of the ball
Mhm.
game. I laughed at Frank Thomas as he was during the pregame show. They was saying there was going to be 8 home runs hit. I don't think 8 is going to get there because we're already in the top of the fifth.
Yeah, and Eric says there's a. I'm gonna guess on these ugly, ugly jerseys. They have a star for every All Star game they're on. These jerseys are garbage. I just
What?
don't like them at
What?
all. They're just so bad.
What? I
Just
actually like it. It reminds me of the Color Rush. Remember the
those were bad too. Those were
I
awful.
I actually like them. I really do.
But
Yeah.
the American League trying to win their 8th straight All Star game because American League's just better.
Mhm.
I mean, got the Yankees, the Rays, and the Mariners. You're all set. Home Run Derby was last night, and I wasn't even gonna watch this thing. I've kind of soured on the Home Run Derby over the years. I'll catch it here and there. Changed my mind just before it started, and I'm glad I did because that was probably the most entertaining Home Run Derby I've ever seen. What about you?
Yeah, I got a late start watching it, dealing with the whole air conditioning thing. So, I had hit the DVR that I was going to watch it and started watching it about an hour after it had started. So I was trying to stay off of social media and off the phone to see it. But you hit on it in when we were talking earlier. Those two guys of Soto and Otani had such a
Mhm.
great time as they were hitting, and they went into two extras
Basically
with
double overtime.
double
So
overtime,
the way it
basically.
was set up this year is they cut it down a little bit. So you get 3 minutes of just as many balls as you can get in. It used to be with this timing rule that you had to wait for the ball to land, but now it seems like you have to wait for the ball to reach its apex because the umpire was pointing the moment you could see that ball get as high
Mhm.
as possible. So I think they changed it with how quick everything was because they want that fast paced action, which I thought was better. You get an extra 30 seconds no matter what after that time once you kind of get an extra break. And you can gain an extra 30 seconds if you hit one over 475 feet, which at Coors, most of the baseball players did. Um, it was a fantastic show. I loved how much fun everyone was having. I like the faster pace of it all. I absolutely hate how ESPN broadcasted it. They kind of do a split screen where you can always see the batter swinging, which is okay, but half the time they're hitting it and you're like, well, where did that go?
Mhm.
Where is this one going? It's like I'd rather just give me the press box view and let me see a ball and do that the golf magic of here's the line that gets traced every time they hit off the drive. I would rather see that than there were some ridiculous home runs. You're like, well, I don't even know where that went.
Mhm.
And then they show that track at the end, and they're like, here's his longest homer, and it looks shorter than everything else because their lines were screwed up. It was ESPN bobbled this all to hell, but it was so much fun anyways. And again, these younger players having fun. You only had one player in this home run derby that had ever done it before, and that's Pete Alonso, who, by the way, is the only man who took it serious, which is why he won the thing. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was awesome to watch, and you hit it right on the head. The graphic they showed at the very end of each person seeing the spray chart of where they hit it and all that was unbelievable. It was crazy to watch some of them, but yeah, you're right. I remember, the biggest memory I remember is watching Junior hit it
Mhm.
off of the wall, which I had a chance a few years ago to see the wall in Baltimore where he hit the wall during the All
Mhm.
Star game or during the home run derby. But for me, I liked the time and it got quicker. They got faster. You
Yeah,
could
2
tell
minutes for the finals, yeah.
these guys got gassed and you could see that
Oh,
they were,
oh, Ton,
they,
especially because 'cause you're in Denver. and the altitude is so great. Poor Otani looked like he was going to pass out every time. And I just want to correct Eric real quick. The 30 seconds for the 2 over 450, I think they got rid of this year and they just automatically gave everyone the 30-second.
Yep. Yep. That is correct. So I liked it. But on the other hand, maybe I'm like you. I want to see the shot hit. I want to see the projection. I miss hearing Chris Berman back. But
Mhm.
seeing where it hit, where it landed, that was what it was all
How
about.
hard is it for them to get that golf cast technology where you could see the flight of the ball as it goes off? I mean, you just get that far view, even if you want to put it in the corner. I mean, because as golf fans,
Mm-hmm.
we're watching on Sunday, and a guy tees off, and you're like, well, I mean, the ball disappears so fast, so now you just kind of see this line to kind of get an idea, even if you have to delay it by a minute as far as your broadcast goes, to be able to put that in.
Well,
The one
most
thing
of
I would like to see different, even though it's great right now, but if you want to go crazy with it, and it might be a safety reason why they don't, is I want them to put a net up right at home plate, and let's get righty versus lefty at the same time. Ready, set, go. They both throw and go. However, I start thinking of the poor kids that are in the outfield, and we had that one girl in the finals that got hurt, and hopefully she's doing okay. Or everyone in the crowd. John Boy was in left field, and he tweeted out going, "You can't even track baseballs because the next one is coming at your head before that one lands. So you have to hit it." Or you have to hit it, see if it's not coming towards you, and then get ready for the next one. So if you
the
have them both
more
going at the same time, it'd be crazy.
the more I was worried about than anything, and I bring it back to Pete Alonso and Trey Mancini's pitchers. You look at both those guys that were pitching to him; they were in their 60s. They
Yeah,
looked like they
and
were.
it's
I
mostly
mean,
pitching coaches
and they
or
were
hitting coaches that were doing it.
they were get I want to say it was Fasu was the guy's name that was pitching to uh Alonso, but he just looked like,
Mhm.
okay, as soon as he was getting the ball, man, he was grabbing three more in his hand and
Yep.
he was going. That's who I was worried more about, was about those guys than anything else. So
But
I
the,
love the
the
format though. It's a
yep,
great new format.
it's fast, it's quick. I like the jokes going on. Ken Griffey Jr. stole the show for me as far as commentary goes.
I didn't get
He
to hear
was
that part.
having so much fun. I got to go back and look at my comments with Richie because he's Ken Griffey said something that was absolutely hilarious to me. Uh, Go ahead and break down what happened real quick. I got to find this.
Well, here we go. For us, and Randy and I talked about it last week, our biggest person that we wanted to win that one actually made it to the finals. Trey Mancini ended up losing to Pete Alonso in the finals, but Trey, you know, pretty much stole the show at the beginning. Everybody was pulling for him, dealing with his cancer. So huge shout out to Trey there. But for me, it was watching Pete Alonso, man. 35 home runs in the first round. It was their third most in a single round, and he did it in the first round, which was crazy. But to be able to hit 74 total home runs,
Mhm.
74 home runs, that is just nuts to think
And
about
the
that
sad
many
thing is
flying
that's
out.
not the record.
No, it's not the record, but to
Yeah,
think that was watching him hit and just he, like you said, he took it so serious. He was all about being right there. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna hit it, and I'm gonna win this thing. He's the first one to go back to back since Cespedes did in 2013, 2014. So my question, if he comes back, which he said he wants to come back next year
Mhm.
in his interview, he says I'm going to come back next year, and he does, and he wins, would he be the best to ever do the home run derby if
He
he
already
goes
is.
back to back to back?
He already is. He's one of only 3 players ever to go back to back. As Eric just pointed out, and I had it in my notes, he's the first person ever to go over 100 home runs in the Derby. He has 131. He's done it twice. Second place is Jock Peterson at 99, which he did it twice as well. But only person over 100, you have 131, and you've done it 2 times. I know a lot of people are going to say King Griffey Jr. King Griffey Jr. has 70 career home runs in the home run derby, and he has done it 8 times. It's just ridiculous what he's done. And I remember what Ken Griffey said as the National League finally on the board with Realmuto hitting a home run, making it 4-1 American League. So Soto needs to be fired, as he is now the only AL pitcher to give up a run. But Ken Griffey had said after the Ohtani Soto battle that if he was in the All-Star game, he is swinging first pitch on Ohtani because he's going to be burnt. He looks so tired. He's not going to be able to throw it very hard in this All-Star game when he starts, which, again, for Ohtani to be in the home run derby, lead off for the American League batting, and pitch the first inning.
And he was hitting 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Even 12 pitches in. Yeah.
So, yes, I think both of us say the home run derby was a success. A couple other things that have come out of this All-Star break. Rob Manfred has come out saying that the 2 rules that were changed due to COVID most likely will be gone starting next year. That's the 7-inning DH or doubleheader and the automatic runner in extra innings. You know my take on the auto runner in extra innings. I'm kind of sad to see the 7-inning doubleheader go, but if they're not going to count no-hitters, which, by the way, was it the Rays last week that threw a combined no-hitter in 7 innings, which doesn't count either? And if they're not going to count those, then get rid of it anyways. But it looks like both of those are going to be gone. He also says that most likely there's going to be a new rule that bans shifts, which will make it where you have to have 2 infielders on each side of second base. And I actually agree. I get his take where he's like, listen, everything we're trying to do is to go back to the baseball that everyone loved. And that's why we're getting rid of the auto runner. We're getting rid of this 7-inning doubleheader. And if you get rid of shifts, you go back to the way baseball was played in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. He just wants to bring a sense of normalcy back next season. So I get his take, but I wouldn't ban shifts. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. There's so many people that are now learning to hit the ball the opposite direction, and those that all they do is pull hit. That one leads a little bit to be desired, but you and I are the same, but we're purists, we're realists. We like the what this game was built on. I'm putting words in your mouth, but that's for me all about. I want to watch the small ball, watch these guys do things the way it was taught, the way it was brought up many years ago. As far as the extra batter or the extra runner, yeah, I love the idea. Don't put anybody on base. Let them earn it. Let them work to earn it. I mean, and that's coming from a Mariner fan who we've had, I think, 8 extra inning games this year, and we've won 6 of them. So I mean, it's just crazy to think about. All right, let's put an extra guy on there. As far as the 7 inning,
Seattle has had 11 extra inning games, and you're 10-1.
Yeah,
you loved a new rule.
Yeah, then that but the historian, the one about the numbers, I want to see it. I want to see it earned. I don't want you to give. Here you go. I'm going to put a guy there. Hope you can get him in 3 batters. No, earn your way on and do it. If that means going 14, 15 innings in a ball game, so be it. I mean, if that's the issue and that's the case, start the games a half hour earlier or an hour earlier.
No, it's not about starting earlier. It's just they don't want it to take as long.
Well,
there's other ways to fix that than what they're doing.
But all those games, most games start at 7 local time. Back it up if they want to do it 6:30. I mean, or 6 o'clock. I understand the working folk on a non-weekend matchup, but that's the possibility of something happening. So I can understand getting back to somewhat of normalcy, but for double headers, I did like the idea of 7 innings just because that what happens, you get rained out. Let's while the team is here, let's try to get it in.
Well, not only if there's rain, let's get these in. Schedule them. Schedule 7-inning doubleheaders throughout the year. I think that would be even better.
I think their
and call
biggest
it a
issue.
tie after 12. I'm actually cool with this. We're going to talk about something. I didn't put it in the notes. And Eric, I hope you can stick around for the rest of this show when we get to the sports that don't get enough airtime, because you are a soccer fan and Robert and I really aren't. But there's something soccer does that drives me absolutely nuts, and we'll get to it in a minute. And we see different sports taking different ideas, whether it's regular season or postseason. And I agree with that. I think in the regular season, once you hit 12, it's a tie. It's not. It's who cares? Let's just
It's
move
it's
on.
it's the same as uh, bowling tournaments and their two frame roll offs.
Mhm.
You get two form. There you go.
But if you do that in a normal league, you just tie. There's no roll offs in the regular season as far as bowling goes. It's just in tournaments. So it's the same thing. Real quick, the Major League Draft happened. Your first pick was Henry Davis, a catcher out of Louisville. He goes to Pittsburgh. As far as our two teams go for Seattle, they got a catcher who most likely will not be a catcher if he ever makes it to the pros. Harry Ford with a North Cobb High School, who had a ridiculous bat flip that I sent to Robert. And the New York Yankees with the 12th overall pick took shortstop Trey Sweeney out of Eastern Illinois. The two notes that I got out of the draft, because Major League Draft is so impossible to get into, because most of these players that get drafted, you're not going to see, if ever, but you won't see for 3, 4, 5 years, because a lot of them get drafted out of high school and go to low A ball and get into the system if that's where they want to go. Or a lot of these guys will get drafted and go, nah, I'm going to go to college anyway. So,
Well, it's that's
and
like
then have to go back in the pool. So it's a bit more of a mess
you
with
see, and
this.
that's
Mhm.
what's rough for me is Seattle had the number 12 pick. And from watching what this kid can do, he's out of Kennesaw, Georgia, which is just above Atlanta there, um, with the 12th pick. I mean, he must be pretty special if Dipoto flies in on a Saturday night, gets there late, and gets up Sunday morning to go and watch him play baseball on a Sunday morning, and flies just last week to watch him play ball. But,
Mhm.
watching what he does, but he's already said, yeah, I'm excited to play it, but what about going to, he's already committed to Georgia Tech. I mean, so now what do you do?
Yeah,
Do
and
you
that's
do
the
you go
decision
to
that they're going to
Georgia
have to
Tech?
make.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Go watch the movie Moneyball. The guy has that same issue
mhm.
about whether he goes pro or goes to college. And a lot of these players are going to have this decision now. And it
Yep.
all kind of depends on how early you pick them, with how much money they would get based on how it worked, the table that's there. A couple notes that I saw out of the draft: the Los Angeles Angels had 20 picks, and they drafted 20 pitchers. It's the second time ever that one team has used all of their picks on pitching, and the first time was the Miami Marlins last year, because it was a smaller draft and only had 5 rounds. So just an interesting thing. And unfortunately, no one from LC got drafted. There was a bunch of them on the list of possibles, but with all the COVID stuff, it's so weird how it works, anyways. For that, we don't need it. Give me the series to watch this weekend.
For me, I'm gonna go the opposite of what you're gonna go, just because I know where you're at. For me, it's got to be Tampa Bay and Atlanta. Atlanta needs to make a push to get back on top in the NL East over the Mets. And Tampa Bay, on the other hand, Tampa Bay is trying to make a push to get up back ahead of Boston. So it's a big series for both of these ball clubs, and knowing that these two number two teams in each of their divisions needs this series to make a big push.
And it's going to be really hard for Atlanta. One thing, we don't have our injury segment in this because we got lots going on. But oh god, I'm gonna blank. Ronald Acuna Jr. I don't know why I blanked on his name for a second. Tearing his ACL this weekend. It was really, really sad to see. I was getting ready. My top story is going to be about Ronald Acuna being a big baby when anybody pitches him inside, and everyone freaking out with the Marlins hitting him all the time, where he almost ran or stormed the mound on, was it Friday, because he
Mm-hmm.
got hit in his elbow pad with an 82-mile-an-hour slider that didn't slide. Like, I was going that route, but obviously don't want to see anybody get injured like that, and he'll be out for the year. Might not even start next year. with the team might be on the IL to start 2022. Just sad to see, and it's really going to be tough for Atlanta now to compete in the NL East. Mine, of course, is Boston and New York. Boston's won all 6 games this year. New York, who tried their best to catch fire, as I said, just could not finish a series. They win the first 2 handedly against Seattle, then get shut out on Wednesday. Then you get the 3-game set with Houston. You don't give up a single run the first 2 games. You're crushing them in game 3. You basically have the sweep for 26 of the 27 innings, and then it all implodes in the 9th inning, which of course has to end with Jose Altuve hitting another walk-off home run against the Yankees, and then ripping his shirt off, going, "Look, I don't have a buzzer this time, but I guarantee you I had a buzzer the last time," because he's a big, giant douchebag, and he's my least favorite player of all time. And just that was, I went from such a good mood. Haley and I are chatting. It's a nice Sunday afternoon, getting ready to do what I'm going to do for the rest of the day. And then the 9th inning started happening, and I'm like, oh God, oh no, will this please end? And then Altuve walked up, and my day was ruined. It was just so,
There was too much golf and
oh,
NASCAR going on that I didn't, and plus I don't get to
yeah.
watch the Yankee game, so I just under the rug there.
Yeah, and poor Eric at the same time. We'll get to that soccer game. He was frustrated with we. Eric and I had a bad day, and then we got on a buddy of ours' case about the UFC, and it made it all better. We don't have time to go through our power rankings today, but check out our combined power rankings on the R&R Sports Report Facebook page. All 30 teams are up there. Let's get to the ESPYs, sir. Did you watch any of this? Is
I did
this
not
even a
watch.
thing that people watch anymore?
I don't know if it is much anymore. I did not watch it, but for me, I got to look in, and I couldn't believe how many categories there are, and I didn't count them before. But
And
there are
even on the ones you listed, you missed one.
no. I don't think I missed any. Did I? I
I
think I
did,
got
but
them.
I had to add one today.
Oh, but I think all of them on the website. But we'll hit on a couple of them really quick. Best male athlete went to Tom Brady. Are you shocked with that one?
No.
Yeah. Um, I was a little upset with best breakthrough athlete LaMelo Ball. I didn't see that coming. As a Gonzaga fan, yes, I'm as
Well,
excited.
it's Lamella Ball because basketball is popular, and it should be Otani or Tatis or Flag Guerrero Jr.
Hmm.
Yeah, but baseball doesn't know how to push their young stars, and it has
Right.
nothing to do with them not being able to speak English. Stephen A. Smith. Sorry.
I that one was a little rough there. But hands down, I was excited to see that the best game went to Final Four game with Gonzaga and UCLA. Suggs hitting that big shot at the very end. That was a heck of a game. Even to watch it live was awesome. So great to see there. Best college men's athlete Devontae Smith. I was a little. Yeah, he was the Heisman, but a little shocked with that one. Um, we'll talk about best team. They give it to Tampa Bay, just because Tom Brady moved. I don't know if I agree with that. Best record-breaking performance went to Russell Westbrook. I did like that one. That he breaks the Oscar Roberts record for triple doubles in a game. And yes, I'm going to say it on the show right now because we had our debate about this. Best NFL play. It did go to your Kyler Murray and the Hail Mary to DeAndre Hopkins, and
Old Hail Murray.
Hail Murray
Yeah.
there.
As Eric says, Mike Zanino with a solo shot in the All-Star game. The
and
old Tampa Bay Ray.
and Joe Buck announced his name wrong when he announced him
Oh,
over the
yeah.
thing, Zaninan. So it was
Zanino.
funny.
Oops.
Yeah. I'm a little shocked, but how about Phil Mickelson as the top male golf athlete?
Talk about a sport that needs to focus on their younger athletes.
Mm-hmm. Especially with that one, I thought that
But
very same thing.
again, as far as popularity goes, Phil Mickelson with those,
Oh,
what are they called, the duels or whatever?
Hmm.
that they've been doing with the sports athletes. It's been fantastic, and it shows just how great of a guy Phil Mickelson is. So I can't disagree.
And we'll get down to the last couple that, and I see the one that you added. I didn't
Yep,
see that one, but um, I am upset with this one. But the best bowler they had was Tom Daugherty.
which is
Uh,
100% wrong.
that is 100, yeah, 100% wrong. Yeah, he's one of the older ones that is out on the PBA tour. He is a great bowler. He is out of the Miami area. He's a great bowler. You watch him bowl. But I would have easily went Kyle Troop or um, I'm drawing a blank. Why am I drawing a blank? I see him throwing the ball. Um, but there's a couple others that easily could have went before Tom Daugherty. But then your WWE moment, I see you added
Hmm.
Sasha and Bianca at WrestleMania. Yeah, that was
Which was fantastic.
one of the coolest things to see. Two African American women fighting for the title, and the first time that had ever happened in a WWE match. So that was a great thing. But if you would like to see those results, you can get on and you can see it. I got the stuff from Sporting News Network. You can go to their website or also go to the SBs on ESPN and check those out.
No, as far as you said about Bowler goes, I would also go Kyle Troop. Sadly, out of the four nominees that they had on the ESPYS, Tom Daugherty is probably the fourth place for me.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Vi is on there, part of the house that we watch on YouTube. Never was able to win a tournament, but was in the top. He was on the show on every major.
Yeah.
And
Chris
then
Prather.
Chris Prather was not on there, but Francois Lavoie was the other one,
Mhm.
which again was absolutely fantastic. Let's get into the NFL. This will be a quick NFL news thing because we don't got much, but it's more of an announcement as far as the show goes. So we got 58 days until the start of the season. Training camp starts in 2 weeks for most of the teams. So starting next week, we're going to start our NFL preseason breakdowns. So I think what we need to do is the 7 o'clock Pacific time hour. You're going to get 30 minutes straight of NFL talk right here on the show. I think it's time for us to get back into that rhythm. I know during the season we had an hour, and we're still working on what we want to do as far as season 2 goes for the R&R Sports Report. But I think the one thing that was popular for our show when we first started was that hour of football. We'd always average between 7 and 10 people watching, and then we'd be done talking football, and we'd have 3. So we need to get back, and so we're going to set the time from 7 to 7:30 p.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. That is your NFL half-hour segment. What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm excited to start talking football and seeing some of the moves that some people are starting to make. People are starting to chirp. You start hearing these reporters, these experts. Not saying that you and I are experts or anything, but we're starting to hit those.
I did get the best play correct. So it's as
But
close to an expert as you need to be.
so we're gonna go a little easier to start. I figured we'd talk about. We're gonna bring up wide receivers next week for positional. We'll talk about our top 10 positional people, who to look for. If you are a fantasy football player, owner like we both play, it's time to start thinking and reading some of those these things and what's happening. So we'll start with receivers first, and we'll figure out where we want to go next on that one.
Yeah, so we'll do our top 10 receivers going into this season. We'll also play some more games, maybe Believe It or Not or Would You Rather would go into that 30-minute segment because we're not quite ready to start breaking down divisions just yet, but we will bring you a bunch of information in those 30-minute packets. So if you are here because you like to listen to us talk about the NFL, that is the 30 minutes for you, and we need to promote that as we go on. But if you are checking us out for the first time, please go follow us or subscribe to us on Facebook and YouTube at the R&R Sports Report. Again, every Monday we do MLB Power Rankings, here pretty soon. Every Tuesday we will have NFL Power Rankings as well. give you some extra information. And we're what, a month and a half away from all of the high school and college sports kicking back. So we'll start getting interviews as well. We'll move back into the studio, and we'll get back into our normal format as summer break is flying by at this point.
It's been nuts, and this is only my week 2 of summer break, but I can't even get into my building right now. As we talked a little bit ago, I was with internet issues. I thought, okay, I'm just going to go back to my classroom, and I'll just go into school and do the show from my desktop at school and do that. Since I was listening, and I was like, oh, I forgot I can't. As Lincoln Middle School has now become the firefighters compound. Place there where they're all meeting, food, sleeping, and all that. They're actually using all of our rooms inside the building now, all of the hallways, and so we can't even go in there. And so I thought, oh, well, there went that idea if my internet went down. So,
all right, let's get into a couple of games here. Let's start with Randy's Believe It or Not, the greatest game ever created, the most original game. No one has ever come up with this idea before. All of them have copied me before I could do it. That's just how it works. This is going to be your All-Star Edition. I told you I have some thoughts about All-Star games. Let's get into it now. So, Robert, I'm going to ask you these questions. You ready?
ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. Believe it or not, All-Star games need to stop being full games.
I'm going to disagree. I think they need to still continue to be full games. They actually mean something now. I like the fact that they do kick off for a home field advantage.
They don't do that anymore.
They're not doing
it.
it.
And if you want that to come back, you're the worst human.
No. Why? Why?
All-Star games are supposed to be fun. It no longer is fun if it means something. If the home run derby last night was for home field advantage, do you think Soto and Ohtani are having fun?
Well, no, probably not.
Exactly.
All right, I do, but I'm purist. I want the entire game. Give me, if that's the case, give me 9 full innings or 8.5 innings. But it's got to be a full game.
No, absolutely not. NHL has changed it where you're playing 3 20-minute games. You're still getting the full process, but they're breaking up into their own individual sections. The NBA has those weird rules now where they play up until somebody gets to a certain point, and then then they add them all together, and then in the fourth quarter you're playing to 25 points higher than the team in the lead is or whatever. So I don't know what you would do with Major League Baseball, whether, like Eric says, you just play 7 innings or you just have fun with it. They don't even have to be innings. People are just there because they want to see matchups. They want to see Ohtani pitch to Tatis.
Yeah.
They want to see Max Scherzer bat to Ohtani. They want to see Ohtani pitch to Ohtani somehow. If they could figure out how to do that, that's what we want. It's all about matchups. The NFL completely needs to get rid of it being a full game because no one cares anyways. Just make it about trick plays. Do it NFL blitz style where you don't even have offensive linemen. As far as the game goes, it doesn't need to be just another game. And that's what drives me nuts. Is MLB All-Star Game is just another game. The whole point of it in the 70s and 80s was it's the only time other than the World Series you get to see American League players versus National League players. But now with interleague play and free agency, it doesn't matter.
I love the idea of what they're doing, miking these players up, because I like the idea of hearing what these guys are chatting with and having a good time. So that I do like, and I hope they keep that up. So.
Mm-hmm. I need to think more on what I would do for baseball. I don't have the answer, but just playing a normal 9-inning game is not the way to go. But that brings me up to my second point. Believe it or not, we need more skills competitions.
That's a double thumbs up. I mean, what NFL did a few years ago when they were doing the quarterback clubs and them running all up and down the field. Don't give me the dodgeball bull hockey. I'm not.
No,
I'm not.
give
I'm not a
me
dog. I want. I
no.
want to
Hold
see.
on, hold on,
I
hold
want to
on,
see like
hold on.
Harper or one of those guys. If throw a baseball from center field and see if you can roll it into the bucket or hit a target at home plate. Give me those kind of things.
You know what? Dodgeball would be perfect for baseball.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't. I don't.
dodging a tawny fastball.
No, I don't think. I don't think that would happen, especially in the middle of the season. Now, if they moved it to the end of the
Yeah,
year, if they
we'll
did
get there.
something, if
We'll
they
get
did
there.
something like that, that might be. But yeah, I'm all for it. Give me some challenges. Hit targets. Have a pitching machine out there. You don't have to have anybody
Mhm.
else. Put a pitching machine out there. As a consistent ball, hit targets, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm all over.
All for a bunting contest. It was just, especially in the Major League Baseball, they really need to do it. Bunting contest, fastest around the bases, fastest pitch. You can get outfielders trying to you get that running start like you did way back in the 1800s with baseball. Have fun with this. This
Hmm.
should be a celebration. And I think sometimes they get too wrapped up in the game and they need it to be a celebration. Which brings me to my next, believe it or not, actually. Believe it or not, fan interaction should be the focus of any All Stars celebration.
100%, 100%. Even watching last night, and I don't know if you saw it, and as we were sitting here last night, we had gotten rid of the grandkids had come over for a while, and so um, the wife and I and sister-in-law were sitting on the couch. We started watching the matchup there with Alonso and them. And what was it, the first or second home run that was hit over to right field? You watch the guy, the fan, diving for the ball over the edge, and he falls down into the walkway, which had to easily be a 5 foot drop, 4 foot drop, and he's lunging out for the balls. I mean, these fans that are true baseball fans, they want a
Mhm.
piece of history. They want a piece. They want to be able. I mean, that's why you see the thing with Fernando Tatis that I posted earlier in the week. Making a kid's day happy. I mean,
Mhm.
even watching here earlier, and they were talking pregame. Freddie Freeman was talking about the idea of his son Charlie meeting Fernando Tatis, and that just makes Freddie feel more like a fan than
Mhm.
you're the player here. We're all fans. We all want to be part of it. So how do you get us involved? You know, do you bring a lucky fan down into the dugout during the game or
Yeah, 100%.
something? I mean, I remember when the home run derby you used to have participants, and I think it was Century 21 gave away $100,000 to the winner, whoever if you got paired up with that person. Somehow get the fans back into it.
Yeah, and that's how you're going to make these younger fans is the fan interactions. They start interacting with these MLB players. I think you get fans for life. So, yeah, I 100% agree. This one, actually, I'll go to this last one first because the other one I want to get your take on. And now I've been saying fan interaction this, fan interaction that, but believe it or not, fan voting has gotten out of control.
I agree. It's gotten totally out of control. You look at some of the people that are on the starting roster, that are playing, and I'm not taking away from any of these players whatsoever because they're good players with their ball club, but there's a lot of these people that are a heck of a lot more deserving to be there. So how do you do that? Do you base it off of you know batting average, or do you just put it in the players' hands? That would be what I would go. I would put it in the players' hands. Let the players vote on who they think should be in there because they're watching each other.
But here's the issue with that: if fans don't vote for pitchers, right? That's just players and
Just
coaches, right? I
right.
believe, and they didn't vote Max Scherzer in, and then he gets in as an alternate, and then he's your starter because he should have been in anyways.
Hmm.
I just think fans have taken over voting too much. You get too much vote for our guys, and it just becomes you know Seattle Mariners are, hey, go vote for the best people. Go vote for these three people that we think are deserving. It's go vote for everybody. If you think our left fielder should be in the All Star game, do it, even though he's batting 197. Just let's get him in. So there needs to be a better balance, and I think there needs to be more representation. I do like. I know everyone. So many people hate this, but I love that Major League Baseball has at least one representative from every team. Because again, with it being so regionalized, you bring at least one person in from every team, that whole market might come with you, or at
Hmm.
least a portion of that market. If you don't have somebody from the Baltimore Orioles in, better chance that most people in Baltimore are not going to check out your All Star game. So
The only bad part is what happens to the teams that are well deserving this year, like those that are playing extremely well. San Diego, Toronto playing good.
you
I
get
mean,
multiple.
but then where do you put the numbers on as being a manager? I would hate to be Kevin Cash or Johnson right now to think about. Okay, I got to try to play all these players
Mhm.
and get time in for everybody. How do I do that? And so I don't think
It's it's difficult.
I wouldn't want to be a manager during these games. I'd
Which
rather
is more
be a,
reason why it shouldn't just be a full game. It should just be some kind of a knockoff thing that everyone gets in and has fun. Here's my last one, and I want to get your take on it. I mean, obviously, our representation is the NFL Pro Bowl, so it's a bad idea there. But believe it or not, doing All Star festivities after the season or even during the finals of that sport are better than during it doing it during the season. God, English is hard.
maybe you should go to Otani's
God,
English
that
teaching
maybe
school.
that's why we're not popular. Is I don't know how to speak English.
Maybe that. Um,
God,
I'm 100%. I think they need to move it to the end. I really do.
no,
They push it into October, yeah, a little bit. So
put
you're
it the
looking
day
at getting.
as far as whatever game you have, you put that before right before the finals. It's
Hmm.
like your kind of warm up. If you do the skill stuff, you can do it during half times. You can do it like if it's baseball, you can do it on that travel day between game 2 and game 3. You can have a celebration then. For the NFL, I mean you could do all that stuff on the Saturday before the Super Bowl. It doesn't need its own week, though it's close enough. I just wish they would fix the Pro Bowl and
Hmm.
not do a normal game. Why can we not have the slam dunk contest at halftime of game 1?
Exactly. I think it would work 100%. But they need to do something because you look at some of these teams, they get, you know, I'm not even going to touch NBA because they can go 3 or 4 days without playing a game.
They played Saturday. They don't play again till Wednesday.
Right.
Or
So,
was it Sunday they played? They either played Saturday or Sunday.
but then, you and I are huge NFL fans. You have, you know, game on Sunday or
Yeah,
Monday.
you can
You
do it
practice 4 days. So,
Friday.
yeah. So for me to think about why couldn't they do this is they're just hurting the Major League Baseball teams. Some of these players that could easily use 3 or 4 days off for a break. I mean, we all get the NFL has their bye weeks.
Mhm.
Why couldn't we just say, okay, now this week, yes, there's absolutely nothing going on. Maybe they
It
do.
would make our job really hard.
It wouldn't, yeah, it make our job hard. But I mean, why couldn't you help those and let those guys have a little bit of a break? I
Mhm.
I love the idea of doing something where they would be in having the break at the same or having the All Star stuff at the very end of the season or doing it like that. But
Mhm.
it's the same thing that happened to in NFL. When the Pro Bowl was the week before the Super Bowl. If your team ends up getting there, sorry, you were
Right.
voted, but
But you got more important things to do, and that's
exactly.
okay. It's not an issue. Um, yeah, as somebody that's new into Aussie rules, they do a thing at halftime of the grand final where they have a race between their fastest players. That's kind of their one and done quick event. I think we need more of that, and just kind of in between these finals games or during those days off. That keep the fan interest for sure. All right, so that's it for Randy's Believe It or Not. Now it's time for Robert's Would You Rather.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet. We're only, I want to say 10 days. Can you believe that? 10 days from the start of the Summer Olympics. And so mine is based a little bit on the Olympics. I'm going to just ask you a couple questions and let's see if you are the summer guy, the winter guy, if you're a team player or not a team player. So first off,
Okay, let's bring it.
First, would you rather compete in the Summer Olympics or the Winter Olympics?
Summer, 100% summer, 1000% Summer Olympics.
The 1000, not 1001.
That's going a little too far.
Okay, so in that case, if so, knowing this, I'm gonna assume the next statement: would you rather be an athlete or a spectator?
I'm already a spectator, so I would rather be an athlete.
No, and
If I'm cool
spectator
enough,
would have to be at the event. Spectator would have to be at the event.
I'd still rather be an athlete, of course. If you were that good at something that you're representing your country, that would be the coolest thing ever. I'm never going to be at that point ever in my life, so of course I would love to be.
That's one thing that kills me is, and you talked about these athletes. When I said something about it earlier, some of these athletes are just to be there to inflate their own platform. I'm sorry, you're there. You're there to compete for your country. If that's not your understanding of being there, don't sign up to be there. So, sorry, had to get on my soapbox about that, but oh well. All right, would you rather compete as a singles event or a team event?
I'm a selfish son of the singles all the way. The sports that I play, bowling, it's you out there against the lanes. Tennis was one-on-one. I played baseball, which is a team sport, but every time you bat, it's you versus the pitcher. So I like the individual more than team.
So that kind of leans into this direction.
Mhm.
But you said tennis, which could be the same. Would you rather compete in an event that was a timed event or a win-loss event? So timed event being, racing, swimming, or a diving, compared to a win-loss where you were in a tennis match, a golf match, baseball match. Which one would you rather?
To me, it's win loss just for the fact it's the same way I bowl. We had the banana belt here in the valley every year. I'm not. I mean, obviously it's a great tournament. It's run very well by Lancer Lanes. That's not my style of tournament because I like to know how I'm sitting. And with a tournament like that, or how nationals are run, where you go and you bowl your set, and then 2 months later you find out how you did, that doesn't get my competitive juices going. But with a Swiss tournament or any kind of a league, you are on the same pair with your competition. That's where I perform better, I think. So that's where the win loss would be bigger for me.
Just a reminder, we are 30 days out from our bowling and golf tournament as of
Yep.
tomorrow, just to remind you of that.
I've not picked up a golf club in 2 months, and I've not picked up a bowling ball in 9 months. So I'm ready. I'm ready.
So it sounds like we need to go out and hit the ball or not. Would you rather compete?
Roll the golf ball and hit the bowling ball. That's
and they changed the format on us a little bit.
No.
Yeah. All right. Stupid. Would you rather compete in multiple events or be an expert at just one event? So if you were just a tennis person, would you do just tennis?
Give me the one. That's too much.
Or would you, if you were a swimmer, but you were the heck of a breaststroke swimmer and a backstroke swimmer, and you competed in both events, which would you rather do?
I want to do one. One and done. Let's go.
One and done. I didn't think that. I figured you'd do the other.
That's too much work.
So a lot has been made over the last few years about where the Olympics have been and how it bounces around from places to place. Would you rather stay and compete in your own home country of the United States, or would you rather compete somewhere else that could be bad setups, or could be, you could be in London, which is okay areas, because we haven't ever seen a third world country or a country of that small origin. But we dealt with Tokyo with how big things were in Seoul. Where
That's
would
really
you rather
hard.
compete?
It'd be really cool to be in Japan right now. As a video game nerd, as you can see behind me, I've always wanted to go to Japan. That's the video game mecca of the world. All of the crazy shops that I have seen online, I would love to be able to shop after doing my one event and being able to then to visit. But the idea of competing in the Olympics in the United States with how crazy that crowd would be behind you, I don't know if there's anything better than that.
Right. I think 100%. So now it comes. I didn't think that question was going to be as difficult because I put this next question, and then the final question is what I figured was going to be the hardest one. Would you rather win multiple bronze and silver medals, or win just one gold?
Nobody knows who finishes second and third. How many silver and bronze medals did Michael Phelps win?
He hasn't had but a few. He's a gold
you
medal.
don't know any of them. We only know gold. Give me the gold.
Give you the gold. All right. That's another issue.
There are some interesting vending machines in Japan as well.
Yeah.
Family show, Eric. Family show. Real quick, neither of us care that much, but the NBA is getting ready for Game 4 tomorrow. The home teams won all 3 games.
You mean they only had 6 days off or 7 days off?
Phoenix leads the series 2-1. We will see if the Bucks are able to even this out tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific time. NHL is over. Tampa Bay Lightning did win back-to-back titles. I'm sorry, Eric. I know we have to keep bringing it up. It's their third all-time, which is actually tied for 10th all-time for wins because a lot of the same teams win that one. So congratulations there. How is Spokane doing?
Well, Spokane ended up playing at home this last weekend and come away with another win over the Storm this last weekend and win 46-35. But the bigger news was Charles McCallum was out with an injury, but they have been really pushing this new quarterback there who just signed from Alabama, and that is Blake Sims. If you recognize that name, Blake Sims, that played for Nick Saban down in Alabama. He's a 30-year-old IFL rookie, as he has made stints in the NFL, CFL, the Alliance American Football, and also Australian's National Gridiron League. So he started this last week, and he did quite well. Went making his start, I should say, his first career start. He did play a couple weeks ago, but made his first start. He had 163 total yards and 4 touchdowns. So look for him to keep things going as McCallum's out dealing with an ankle injury from week 5. They are at home again this weekend as they take on, get ready for this team name. Are you ready? The Tucson Sugar Skulls at 6:05 at in Spokane at the arena. So if you are in the area here in the Pacific Northwest, want to go and check out a game, make sure you go up to the arena and watch that.
I may want to be a Tucson Sugar Skulls fan now.
I laughed when I saw the team name. I was like, I knew Tucson had a team, but I didn't know they were the Sugar Skulls.
So good. Quick score update. We're now through 7 innings?
Mm-hmm.
It went away. American League up 5-2. I think it's through 7. Is it through 6 or through 7?
Through 7.
Okay.
Through 7.
Nearing another victory for the good league, the American League. Let's get into those sports that don't get enough airtime, which I guess the Spokane counts as well. But I want to start with soccer. So the thing I didn't put in with the news, but we got Eric here, and I want to get his take as well. So the Euro 2020 happened, which was going on while the Yankees were blowing their big league. So Eric and I were both crying over different things. and battling who had the worst of it. But Italy does defeat England in penalty kicks, and I bring this up as every time I try to say something that I would improve in soccer, I always get yelled at for Americanizing the sport. Yet penalty kicks to determine a championship might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Penalty kicks, just like penalty shots in hockey, I have no problem if you don't want to have a tie in a regular season. So the NHL didn't want ties anymore. So here's your 5 minute overtime. If not, then we'll do penalty shots. So we have a winner. You want to do that in soccer so you don't have all these 0-0 ties and you have a winner. Cool. But you're determining a championship on penalty kicks, which is like having a free throw contest to determine Game 7 of the NBA championship. I don't know if I just am not the audience for this sport. I don't find it compelling. I mean, obviously, you're on the edge of your seat whether they make it in or not. But I think soccer, the one thing soccer sells as far to Americans really is the same thing with hockey. Is a goal could be scored at almost any moment, and with soccer, not a lot of goals get scored, so that one goal could mean everything. So why wouldn't you in the finals of your big tournament just let them play till someone scores? Wouldn't that be more compelling of this game is going on and on, everyone's exhausted every time that ball gets near the goal square, this could be the moment. Like I only really watch soccer a lot during the World Cup. That's when I get into it. It's kind of like the Olympics for me. Like I'll get into it for this 2-3 week time. Or I guess I mean World Cup's longer than that. But when I get into it or I'm watching the United States in the World Cup, it's every time they get close, it's this could be the chance. I got to pay attention because I might miss the one goal that gets scored. I don't know. What do you think about penalty kicks?
I'm not on top of it, but for me, for a person or from a kid that played it for, and I'm gonna have to, I'd lean on mom and dad to ask them, but I think I paid like 3 or 4 years when I was younger. It just wasn't for me, but to watch and to see how things are going now. What determines extra play time? I mean, they go past their 90 minutes. Why not just stop after 90 minutes, give each of them a 10
Don't
minute?
Americanize the sport, Robert.
I know, but I guess that's that part of me.
Me too.
Why not
I
after,
just like that too.
you know, let them pause, pause
Hey.
and let them have a 5 minute reset. And then guess what? You play until you get a winner. I like that idea. Give them, they already take a break at 45 minutes, go ahead at 90 or let them play their extra 3 or 4 minutes that they knew to. Let them have a 5 minute out and then let them go right back and you play until somebody scores.
Yes. Like Game 7, the greatest playoff moments in all of sports, and I'm not a huge hockey fan, but is Game 7 and overtime in Game 7 of a Stanley Cup because it can end at any point and it can go on forever. I have watched many a hockey game that goes into the fourth overtime in a playoff game, and you're on your edge of the seat that entire time waiting for that one goal to be scored. And I think with soccer, that is more compelling to me than let's line up and shoot from 15 meters away or whatever, which is basically can the goalie guess correctly
Right.
at which way they're going, and all the dramatics that go into it before they kick the ball. And I don't know, it just seems like a dud to me after your entire finals. And again, soccer fans probably would hate this idea, and I'm just not the person to go about it. It's not for me. So Eric says, okay, they actually used to do this for a while. FIFA and UEFA used golden goal from 1996 2003. Fans hated it. They went to silver goal. Okay, interesting. And it's 12 yards. Okay, sorry, Eric. I'm a soccer novice when it comes to that. Just saying it as it is. Let's get into some Aussie rules football now. as Hawthorne did Hawthorne things and got crushed by Fremantle. Wasn't even close. Fremantle wins at 108-46. Geelong, sir, gets another big win against Carlton, 70-44. What'd you think of your team?
It was a pretty good game. The more I watch it, the more I'm getting into it. It was great to see them actually score a little bit in the first quarter. They have struggled getting any points in the first quarter over the last couple of weeks, but they just look like they're going to be one of those top tier teams. They keep floating around between third and fourth right now, and as long as they're staying right there, I like that. It is a new sport for me. I'm learning lots of stuff, and I'm understanding that you need to be in the top 8. You need to stay right where you're at. So you
top
need to
8
be
obviously is their playoffs or finals as they call it.
right.
But getting in the top 4 is
Is
just
even
as
better.
important,
Yep.
or obviously better, because then, I mean, the way it works, if you haven't listened to us before, the top 4 play each other in the first round, and the next 4 play each other in that first round. Those top 4, if you win, you get a bye week the next week, and you go right into the semifinals. If you lose, you can still have a chance to work your way through.
Mm-hmm.
So being in that top 4 is very, very, very important.
And one thing I'm watching too, and you notice, and just being able, and I've set my DVR so I get those games that start late, and so I've been able to watch some of these other teams that we haven't played against, but how some of the coaches coach and how they are coached. Some like to play the long kicks. Some are all about handball, all that. I'm finding and I'm understanding. They're talking about these players are able to kick with both feet, but you see a lot more predominant left-footed kickers in the league. I was shocked to see how many, when they take their marks, that attempt goals with their left foot. It's maybe they're just grown differently in Australia. That's the only thing I can figure out.
By the way, if they go to 10 teams for their finals, it's insane. There's only 18 teams in the whole league. I hate playoffs that have more than half of your league that make it. That's just me. And Eric does say that they were completely lost. Sydney did get a big win over Western, 79-60, which is a possible finals matchup down the road. Gold Coast and GWS had a wild finish. You can go find that YouTube clip. AFL does a great job of any close game. They put the final 2 minutes up for you to watch. I watched that. Great finish, but Gold Coast gets the win there, 65-64. North Melbourne trying to get out of last place and just driving me nuts as they get a big win over West Coast, 70-60. So after this week, we're nearing it. What do we got? 5 or 6 weeks to go. Out of those 8 final spots, 7 of those 8 spots shifted around last week. That's insane to me. That there's so much movement and so much that can still be decided. Fremantle moved into the finals right now as GWS fell out. Melbourne back into the top spot after Western fell to Sydney, and North Melbourne now just 2 points behind Hawthorn.
Yeah,
to try to not win the wooden spoon. And
6 weeks out.
Listen, I'll hold up a wooden spoon if Hawthorn wins it.
Yeah, 6 weeks. 6 weeks left to go in the regular season. I think your team, I'm a little concerned about. There's been so many injuries. You lose a big player this week and probably done for the year as your young. I don't know what they determine. He's not the flanker or what they call their position, but you've got a lot of injuries happening for your ball club, so it's a little scary. Again, Jeremy Cameron out for us as one of our main goal shooters. So, I mean, it's maybe I need to get with Eric and understand positions. I'm not sure about all that, but it's interesting to see how some of these people have they're just so abusive to their bodies, man. They go up and get anything and they come down and they don't care. They come down, they hit, and you watch this one guy just hobble off the field this week, and it's just crazy to watch him.
Listen, as far as injuries goes, and for Hawthorn, we just don't want to win the wooden spoon for the next 2 years. As a Hawthorn supporter, just don't win the wooden spoon for the next 2 years. Obviously, Clarko is leaving after next season. and you get Sam Mitchell coming in. He's coaching one of the minor league teams right now. So we're just kind of in that waiting period before the rebuild. Hopefully. I'm tired of rooting for teams that suck, and that's all I do.
It'll be
Anyways,
it'll be an interesting week to see. Um, like you said, there's some big games coming up there,
some
sir.
huge games this week. I'm not going to tell you what's on TV because I feel like that's wrong anymore on the site that I get because I listed them off last week and then Robert messaged me later saying the ones that are on his TV are different. So just check your local listings. There's sometimes one on Fox Sports 1. There's usually two that hit up on Fox Sports 2, usually very late at night and you have to DVR them. And if you
I,
happen to have Fox Soccer Plus, you get a lot of replays.
I'll tell you right now what is scheduled right now is going to be on Friday night at 8:30 Pacific time. GWS will be taking on
Sydney.
Sydney, and then the 11:30 game will be Melbourne against your Hawthorne Hawks. Is what
That's going to
shows
be
up.
such a well. Hawthorne has won some games that they should not be a part of, so maybe that's one of those games, but probably not.
And then on Saturday evening, you got Adelaide. The Crows will be taking on West Coast Eagles, and the games on FS1, FS2 this week.
There you go. Other games, you get the 7th ranked Fremantle versus the 3rd ranked Geelong. You get 12th ranked Richmond, who I had in my top 4 in the preseason picks. They've lost 4 in a row. They take on the 4th seed Brisbane. And then you already said GWS and Sydney, and also the 9th seed St. Kilda will take on the 5th seed Port Adelaide. So a ton of finals implications on the line as we are getting closer and closer to ending the regular season. Big tournament coming up in the PGA, but how did the John Deere Classic go?
It was crazy to shoot watching the scores, as it always is there in Illinois. But at the end of the 3rd round, 54 holes in, there were 20 players within 5 strokes. 20 players within 5 strokes. Sebastian Munoz led at 1600. He shoots par on Sunday, and Lucas Glover, one of the biggest shooters on Sunday, shoots 7 under 64 and ends up winning by 2 strokes. That's his first tournament win in over 10 years. But there wasn't as many big names there as there was some over. We'll talk about it here in a minute. There were some over across the pond playing in the European Tour. John Rahm was over there. Roy McIlroy was over at the European stop. So not as many names in that tournament there, John Deere.
I think Joel Damon went over. He didn't. I don't think he played in that tournament, but he was playing around elsewhere.
Yeah,
I think he went over early.
Yeah, he was over. He wasn't part of the European Tour because that was part of their Rolex. They were playing the Scottish Open, and that was part of their Rolex series. I don't think he's part of that quite yet. But hats off to Lucas Glover coming. He was one of those 20 players that made the push there, and he ends up winning that one at 18 under. Again, the first win in almost 10 years. Shane Lowry, we look ahead to the Open. This is one of my favorite tournaments of the year, and they're back at Royal St. George over in Great Britain and England. They will be playing over there. Shane Lowry is the defending champion, but the bigger news so far from that, other than listening to Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau talking about playing against each other or playing together on the golf team for the Olympics, is that Zach Johnson has to withdraw because of COVID. Kills me. I mean, we're already in. Go ahead, get vaccinated. You know you're going to be out on the tour.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the. I think it's because they had to go over there is the only reason they get tested. I think the PGA is now at that point where they're not even testing anymore, but going over to England kind of changes things as well. It's going to be tough to watch this live.
No thanks.
But if you're interested in Joel Damon, the Clarkson boy, He tees off round one Thursday morning here at 12:14 a.m. He will tee off with Daniel Berger and Joaquin Neiman. That's his pairing. I like that we're down to 3 people pairing, so not 4.
Yeah,
I'm
I
a
like
fan of
it.
I'm a fan of that. But that is when Joel Damon takes off. Who's your pick?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a little bit of experience. He did have a good week, an okay week at the European stop there in the Scottish Open. Give me Lee Westwood. He just looked really good. He had a few errant shots on Sunday. For me, Sunday was tough. I watched a lot. Besides watching the Mariners lose, I watched a lot of golf as the Scottish Open was happening.
I wish I would have watched a lot of golf instead of the Yankees.
European Tour was happening. The American Century Championship was happening. There was lots going on. You're a fan of sleep. You might need some sleep. But Lee Westwood looked really good. He was tuning up. I think this plays into a good course to be accurate. He is a very accurate fairway hitter. So I'm going to take Westwood. How about you?
So first off, anybody listening, pay close attention because which one of us correctly picked the U.S. Open winner?
Okay.
I'm waiting for you to announce it.
The almighty Randy Isbell.
Oh God, don't call me almighty. I'm like a third of the size of the almighty Bobby Lashley. All right, I got nothing on Bobby Lashley. He would break me in half with his left hand alone. But your winner of the Open, Xander Schauffele. That is my pick. He is yet to win a major. He'll win his first one this weekend. He's got 2 straight top 10 finishes. He has 8 top 10 major finishes in his last 10, or at least since 2018, 8 top 10 major finishes since 2018. And also in 2018, he finished tied for second. He is due. He is ready.
And that's a good.
Will be the almighty.
That's a good pick because there's some of the experts from the PGA that are picking him to be in the top 5. So,
Ranted Randy speaks again. That is on a whole different podcast. Which again, I set those guys up with a beautiful tournament to decide the greatest game show of all time. I created a 64 game show bracket for these guys, and let them yell at me for. What did we go through? 9 podcasts on Life is Like a Game Show, also on the W2M network. And they haven't done anything since. I mean, they've been busy and they've got things going on. I flip them crap all the time. But come on. So I gave them the gift.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, well, we'll keep it short here over the next couple.
Yeah.
Like I said, the American Century Championship, which I want to bring up, is a huge fundraiser between celebrities, athletes, all that goes and do that in Lake Tahoe. Beautiful course there. John Smoltz Eagles 18 on Saturday to take the lead going into Sunday, but then ends up losing the lead and loses it in extra holes to Vinny Del Negro, the basketball player, and all of that, and wins over John Smoltz. But it was very fitting as Vinny Del Negro had lost his father earlier in the week. Goes over to still competes in the tournament, and they had over 74 athletes, coaches, actors, media personnel, comedians. It's a great tournament. I always watch it when it comes on NBC, so it was a great thing. Tony Romo finishes with a 66, and Annika Sorenstam finishes with a 64. And the point totals are a lot different, but I love that tournament. If you have a chance, go back and watch the highlights and just YouTube it, American Century Championship, and watch it. It's a great event.
NASCAR news. It's really interesting. There's a lot of ridiculous news going on. We might not get. God, English has just died. I've been unable.
I'm going to sign you up with Shohei Ohtani.
Stephen A. Smith is going to cancel the show, and I just can't handle it. But they were supposed to get the new car in next year. That might get delayed because now there's safety concerns with it, which is really, really disappointing. Now they're also talking about reconfiguring Atlanta, which is one of my favorite courses, and making it more like Daytona and Talladega. And I hate it. I hate it so much. But if you look at on the track news, Kurt Busch got a huge win this weekend. He holds off his brother Kyle Busch in a pretty fun little 20 lap, 15 lap battle between the two. Kurt Busch was actually outside the playoffs going into the race, and basically, if you win, you're in. So that was huge, and it messed up the point system. It's a mess now. Not as much drama, I think, as NASCAR was hoping. But you have 5 races left before the playoffs. You get New Hampshire on Sunday, then you get a couple of road courses in Watkins Glen and the Indianapolis road course, and then Michigan, and then Daytona of all things to finish off the regular season. And there's 96 points between the driver without a win that would still make the point or the playoffs in points, and then the driver that's out of it. So the four that are in based on points because they don't have a win yet is Hamlin, Harvick, Dillon, and Tyler Reddick. And then your next four who are sitting out: Chris Buescher, Matt DiBenedetto, Ross Chastain, and Bubba Wallace. All of them at least 96 points out with 5 to go. So basically, if you're out of it right now, you got to win to get in.
And that's that's the bad part is I took Bubba Wallace as my pick to be one of the main drivers this year.
Yeah, not as fun as I think NASCAR was hoping the build up to the playoffs would go. And last but not least, before we get into this week in sports history, again, Eric Watkins and I were making fun of a buddy about UFC. I made the joke that the UFC is like WWE and is scripted, and it was crazy that the UFC scripted an injury angle so they can get a fourth fight between the guys. But Conor McGregor was in action. Snapped his leg late in round 1 at UFC 264. But that's not what I wanted to bring this up for. I want to bring it up just for the fact that as much as I am not a UFC or a fight fan in general, UFC has something with Conor McGregor. As much as people love him or hate him, they need more people like him. Because when he fights, their buy rates go insane. Their pay-per-view buys on this show alone were just under 1.8 million, 1.3 million of that coming from the subscriptions off of ESPN Plus, which then you have to pay more to get it. They brought in nearly $16 million on the live gate. And from the reports that I was reading today, they have possibly brought in nearly $100 million just on that one event alone. Most of these numbers tower over mini WrestleManias. And this was just a normal UFC pay-per-view that they have monthly. But you get a guy like Conor in who is controversial, and either you want to see him fight because you're a big fight fan and you think it's going to be a good fight, but then you bring in the casuals that hate Conor McGregor and just want to see him get his butt kicked. That's how you get the buys. And I think that's what UFC needs to do, is promote the personalities, go over the top with it sometimes. I can't stand Conor McGregor and some of the things that come out of his mouth, but you have to respect the man because he knows that the worse things that he says, the more money you're going to pay to either watch him get his butt kicked or for you to be upset because he beat your guy.
Right, and that was me on Saturday. I hawed whether or not I wanted to go out to the casino and watch the fights because I was just like, I want to see him get his butt beat. I really did. I don't like him. Even him selling his whiskey on his commercials. He even sounds arrogant on his commercials. Yeah. So, I mean, and darn good and well, he's selling stuff and getting the people filling tickets. It's just crazy to think that almost $100 million for the event that was brought in. But
it shows you, like, obviously I don't know Conor personally by any means, but I have watched his interviews after his last 2 fights. The last one, even the Series 1, he knew there was going to be a third fight. So he didn't promote it. He just went, listen, he gave respect to his opponent and said he's a great fighter. He didn't have as much time to prepare, and that was on him. And you've got to be able to bring it against his top competition and everything there. And then this fight, the moment he snapped his leg, he's still in seller mode. And there's usually not a fourth fight, especially now that he's lost the last 2 and he's won like 1 fight in the last 6 years or whatever it is. So he went in this complete sell mode with his interview with Rogan when he was sitting on the mat getting his leg wrapped up. And there's two different Connors,
Hmm.
and he knows how to sell a pay per view. And UFC needs more people like it if they want to be that top professional organization like their fans believe it is. Which I'll ask you this real quick. This is the argument we got into. Is the UFC the greatest form of athleticism in the world?
I don't think so.
Me neither.
I
We'll,
can.
and maybe we'll get into it next week. I'll just a quick one because we're getting late.
I
But
like that. Because I can tell you, you and I will disagree on that because I have who would be mine. So
pencil it in for next week. We'll get into it because I'm very, very, very curious. But for now, it is this time in sports history.
well, before we get that far, bases loaded, 3-0 count, 2 outs. NL threatening to score here as Chris Bryant is up on the plate. He just hits one and a line drive out to Walsh in left field, and that is how the 8th inning ends. The National League had a chance of breaking it open, but great play by Walsh. All right, this week in sports, July 7th through July 13th, a few of them first ever Wimbledon tennis championships begin. Official lawn tennis tournament in 1877. Future Hall of Famer slugger Babe Ruth makes his major league pitching debut for the Boston Red Sox and earns a 4-3 win against the Cleveland Naps at Fenway Park. 1919 Philadelphia Phillies tie the major league record of 8 steals in an inning. In a 9-inning game, Washington steals as the leader has 8 in the year 1915. 1948, the Cleveland Indians signed 42-year-old veteran Negro League pitcher Satchel Paige. 2 days later, Paige pitches 2 scoreless innings in that ball game. In 1949, baseball owners agreed to finally put warning tracks around the fence, or right by the fence, for home runs. 1968, Wilt Chamberlain becomes the first reigning MVP of the NBA to be traded the next season when he moves to Philadelphia, from the Philadelphia to LA. Bonus question, Randy, if you know who the other one is. Probably going to be really easy.
Reigning MVP to be traded?
Yep. Or move.
Is that Durant?
No, it would have been LeBron. So, 1990.
Yeah, I guess it was to move. Yeah,
to move.
Traded, but yeah.
1990 Wimbledon's women's tennis. Martina Navratilova wins her record 9th Wimbledon singles title, beating American Zina Garrison 6-4, 6-1. 1996, Kirby Puckett, who is still one of my favorite players to ever play for the Minnesota Twins, retires after he loses his vision due to glaucoma. And in 2006, Cleveland Indians first baseman Travis Hafner becomes the first player in Major League history to hit 5 grand slams before the All-Star break. He ends up hitting a Major League tying 6 grand slams in the season. So now, sir, it is that time for you to answer the question.
Me, sir.
I'm gonna give you 2 of them.
Okay. You stumped me twice. That's great. Appreciate it.
You get to pick which one you want to do first. Do you want to do tennis first, or baseball first?
Tennis first.
All right. We did talk about Martina Navratilova, who has won Wimbledon the most for the men.
Federer.
Yeah, that is correct. Do you know how many times?
Shoot. 8.
Oh my God! Ding, ding, ding! On the nose.
Sampras is at 7, right?
Yes. Yeah. Federer won from 03 to 07, and then 09, 12, and 17. Good job. 100% on that one. Do you want to push your luck? You want to push your luck?
No. Go ahead. Bring it.
All right. Who is Travis Hafner tied with 6 grand slams in a season?
Hank Aaron.
No. I figured I'd throw that in there just because the All-Star game has been on Hank Aaron, but actually no.
Carlos Delgado.
No, it's
No,
Donnie Baseball,
is it really?
1987. Yep, Donnie Baseball.
Nice. I should have known that. Mr. Don Mattingly is a guy. Is the reason I'm a Yankee fan. Yeah, the
That's why
old
I picked
mustache.
that one.
I just need to get rid of this. I had the Don Mattingly mustache going on. But I also think I'd look really, really weird. But I look weird anyways. But
Well,
look weirder if I don't have this facial hair. If I just have the mustache or I have no facial hair, no, absolutely not. This is the only facial hair I can grow, and it's the only one that makes me look semi not horrendous.
well, I'll be right about August 20th. I'll start letting the beard grow, and hopefully by the last game of our football season, coaching, I'll have my full beard again.
There you go. I'm afraid what Haley thinks about that. But that is going to do it for this show. We're currently in the ninth inning, AO up 5-2. So go check out the end of that. Next week, again, don't forget, and we'll post it throughout the week. The NFL half hour will start next week, 7 to 7:30 Pacific time. If you want to listen to us talk about the NFL, that is the time we're going to do it each and every Tuesday until the season starts, and then we'll see where we go from there and how much time it gets and win and whatever. But I know a lot of people like to listen to us talk that sport more than any other sport, so that is when you're going to be able to check that out. Obviously, we'll be able to talk second half of baseball, talk the Open Championship. Will the NBA Finals be done? Will they play more than one game in between the time we've talked today and next week? I haven't looked at the schedule. We'll have lots to talk about. We'll have that debate about the UFC and what is the most athletic competition in sports. That I think that'll be a fun one as well. And we'll see if Stephen A. Smith puts his foot in his mouth again. I mean, it gives us content. That's all it is. But you can check us out on the R&R Sports Report. Also check out the Time Spent Poorly Network on Facebook and YouTube. They have a good sports podcast as well as a couple other podcasts. Check out W2M Network for all the stuff. I've got a podcast on there, Chapter Select. They've got all sorts of stuff over there. Obviously, check out Black Irish and the Kickoff and the game show one if that comes back. I'm blanking on it. Life is like a game show. That's what it is. Check out all of that and more because it's the summertime and it's too hot and you should just sit in the air conditioning and listen to podcasts. That's my recommendation for the week. But for now, that's Robert. I'm Randy, and we are out.